Okay, to you, while I listened to you both, I came to this thinking. I like to hear your opinion. David, we came from economic development, and the Pedro talked about creating jobs for young people. That's the economic development word that you mentioned, and in the five pillars of people first. Also talks about the prosperity and the development. How about this? For the future economic development program in Europe, in the United States, and Japan, we put together proactive economic development strategies, meaning that without inclusion of resiliency, without inclusion of sustainability, the public sector cannot put the economic development together, since private sectors are now coming with CSRs and other means that they are willing to participate. They are sensing the world is coming to some dangerous planet. How about creating economic development strategy, including resiliency, including prosperity, including all those proactively, so that the corporations can be attracted to regions and countries? Am I off the focus, or just came up with this concept? What do you think?
Well, I'll take a first shot at this, Pedro, if you don't mind, because this is deeply ingrained in what I do on a day-to-day basis, Sam. Because I still, although resilience is uh, uh, being really integrated into disaster recovery, and in most countries now, when they do recovery from disasters, whether it's a national or an international assistance, uh, resilience is required to be embedded in that recovery. And what I have said for years is that economic recovery is economic development strategy that is wrapped around a specific event. So if you talk about recovery and you don't include resilience and sustainability in that recovery, if it's not focused on that, then you run a very high risk of failure. And that is a given now, it's a fact. And job creation cannot occur in a robust manner over the long term without embedding sustainability and resilience. Pedro talked about job creation. It's a known fact that the United States is an oil producer, and in fact, they've gone from being dependent to being practically independent with oil and with natural gas, are an exporter. But there's a recognition that the days of that being a major economic engine, a recognition by the petroleum companies, by the oil and gas companies, that this cannot continue forever. And a lot of these companies are investing substantial amounts in renewable energy. I heard a broadcast yesterday. A very famous economist who said that the transportation as a service, meaning the electrification of transportation, not just cars, but even airplanes. They're now looking at electric powered airplanes. And then the autonomous driving and eventually autonomous flying will change the entire nature of how people move themselves and how goods and services are moved around the world. That's going to create disruption, but it's also going to create opportunity. The number one demand occupation in the United States is for technicians and engineers in the wind turbine industry, because wind is fast becoming a major source of power in the United States. So when we talk about disruption, you know, the horse and buggy industry was destroyed by the automobile, but look how many jobs the automobile created. So the automobile industry is now transforming into something else. That's going to create job disruption, but it's also going to create a lot of opportunity. And just look at what's happened to the companies that provide services in a digital economy, because that's what we've had to convert. The entire global economy is in some state of conversion that's been rapidly accelerated by this pandemic to a digital economy. We're on a teleconference now. 5 years ago, I would have loved to have gone to Tokyo and seen Sam in person and seen Pedro in person. But we're learning to adapt to this because we have to. And this is going to create, you know, these companies are all exploding with growth and hiring people. And again, transformation is disruptive. It's difficult, but over history, generally the result has been something better. And I think if we look at this with that lens and say, okay, where are there opportunities we can utilize to create new jobs, create new investment in this arena that we're in, the global economy is in now. And those investments, that 10 trillion that I talked about, are adaptation, but they're also transformational, those investments. Telehealth is already exploding. Distance learning, you know, telelearning is already exploding. And a lot of this is not going to go back. A lot of this is going to remain with us. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I still want to see you guys in person, though. I'm not going to change.
Okay, Pedro. I think we are agreeing in what has to be done, but where can we start? How can we start this movement?
I think, Sam, let me share with you, you know, from the good thing about the case studies is that we all learn from each other. You know, Portugal, like Japan, has negative demography. You know, and I keep sharing. Lisbon is growing, but the cities away from Lisbon, they are dying. You know, and I keep sharing with them the example of Shiwa and how Toyo University, the municipality of Shiwa, and also the students of Toyo University came up with this fantastic project in Shiwa to reverse negative demography. In terms of jobs, I like very much the case study of Wales in UK, where they have asked the private sector to understand the public challenge and to go beyond financing. And this is very interesting. So what happens today for them to, one of the criteria for them to choose a private partner is a partner that creates jobs. And so on the PPP competition, a key issue is obviously how are they going to manage CapEx and OpEx, but actually they are giving a very high weight to job creation, to impact on community. So out of the jobs that the project represents during transformation and during asset management, how many of those jobs are going to come from the local villages? How much of the materials, equipments are going to be used that exist on the region? And I think this is very interesting because we are seeing the public-private partnerships going one step beyond. And this means that it's not just about financing, it's not just about economics, it really is about social cohesion. And social cohesion means creating jobs. And I think this is a very good example. And I think the same way we are using Shiwa case study, we will be able to use the Welsh case study and start having these social criteria to implement. And I think what you're doing here today, that's the best we can do, is to bring 3 different continents, 3 different experiences, 3 types of case studies, and how to put this together. And this is very important, because this represents a change in thinking, because this means that not only the public servants can think about public interest, but actually public interest and common good has to be in the minds of the private sector and of the civil society as well. And when we see that the private sector understands the common good, understands public interest, understands planet protection, understands social cohesion and fighting poverty, I think then we take public-private partnerships to the next level. And so my perspective, Sam, it really is to do what and this is something I say in every university I give a lecture, you know, we need a more proactive academy. We do not need academies that just look into research on the past. We need academies that look into the problems today and that team up and bring people and talk with municipalities, talk with the private sector, and try, you know, and make things happen. And so I think the next step really is to elevate the level of public interest within everybody, and then to try and to make it happen, to start up. I think you, Toyo University and the PPP school is a very good example on incubating PPPs. And I like to say one thing, Sam, that the academy is probably the best neutral broker you can have to promote cooperation. Because when you talk to the mayor, or even when you talk with private shareholders, if you come from the academy, people are going to think that you're going to stay there after the current political mandate, you know, and you are in charge of studying, researching, and making sure that whatever happens, you're going to be transparent about it. And so I think the neutral broker position of the academy is essential, and I think you are doing it. And actually, in that case, it's all of us that we have to copy. But I think it's time to implement. You know, it's time to transform the ideas, the concepts, the passion into action. And I think COVID-19 is a very clear alarm to tell us all we have to do it. It's time for action. It's a clear call for action. I like to say that COVID is a call for action. Is a call for humanizing the economy. It's a call for solidarity. It's a call for making bridges between the public and the private, between the past and the future and the brighter future.
Great, great. David, can you give us your closing thought?
Yes, I could not agree more with Pedro's assessment. It is time for action. And we've done, I've said this many times, and I think you both have said it before. We've done a really great job of moving PPPs forward in their development and implementation through People First, but also I could not agree more with Pedro, through your school, Sam. The graduate PPP program, which now can be global, using what we're using today. And I think there's a need for that, for education and showing people how this is done and done right. And not just people that put together PPPs. The people that really need to understand are local and provincial and national elected and appointed officials. It's like economic development, Sam. What do we always say about economic development? The problem with economic development is when you're dealing with officials, public officials that don't understand economic development. What's the same with PPPs? And so that is, the call to action for us is to go and continue to promote the development of PPPs that are meet those standards of People First, that meet the standards of viability and inclusion and transparency, all of those things. But the people on the public side and the new people to the table on the private side, these impact investors, all need to learn. And so we need to do, but we also need to teach. And I think your school, Sam, is critical to that and critical to move this effort forward, especially now with COVID. And again, I'll echo Pedro. This is a call to action if there ever was one, and we have to act.
Thank you. I don't wear this with light mind. I feel I'm committed for the sustainable world. And I'm not an academician to teach theories of economics and so on. I'm a practitioner. So you have seen what I do in Shiva and many others in Asia and so on and so on. So I try to attract investment. I try to create jobs. I do that with sustainable ways, so I don't get into fossil fuels and others. But I'm just a one person trying to do what I think is best. What my governor Askew told me, do the right thing, Sam. So I am trying to do the right thing here in Tokyo and in Asia. Hope this is the conclusion of today's interview. Sorry we missed Jeffrey, but thank you for your compliments for what we do, but we keep on doing what we have to do so that our children can have a better future. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.